Hello, my name is Ariel like the mermaid. Why are so many cisgender people so obsessed with people's genitals? I mean, now I think a lot of people are going to be like, what? I'm a cisgender and I'm not obsessed with people's genitals. What are you talking about? But what I'm talking about is that there's, it's masked, but what people are asking, for one, when cisgender people tend to ask, or want to know what someone's gender is, it tends to be, what most people are really asking is what their genitals are. They're not really asking, they're not really asking how people identify or anything. It really comes down to what they have in their pants. But that's really masked very well in our, because everything, is so gendered in a lot of our language. I mean, the first thing you generally are going to learn about a person is what their gender is. Because that's just the way our language is, with pronouns, like, just from the start, if I, first of all, names tend to be gendered, so you can generally, if I say Caroline, generally people would assume female, or if I said Brad, people would generally assume male, but, there's other things, like if, someone has a name that could go either way, like Ariel, or like Jordan, or like Morgan, there's a lot of names that can go either way, so it's like, if people, but even so, there's pronouns, gendered pronouns. So if I said, if I said Morgan, oh, my friend Morgan is, they're a really cool person, then you suddenly know, what their gender is. But it's funny that so much in our language has to do with gender, and gender matters so much, and when, people will frequently make generalizations about gender, they'll be like, you men, and you're always trying to fuck women, or, you women, you're always complaining in the kitchen, people always make generalizations, but when it comes down to it, the main difference that people are talking about when they think of gender in a very cis-sexist way is cocks and vaginas. So, it's really an interesting thing. I think that a lot of people really, just because, I think the big thing that really made me, frustrated about this is I saw like a horrible article. I didn't really read, I kind of skimmed it because I couldn't bring myself to really read it because it was just so awful. It was like an article, something along the lines of Laverne Cox is really a man, or something like that. It was an awful article in which the person just, frequently used the wrong pronouns, referred to Laverne Cox, who's a trans woman, as a man. It was just completely tasteless and completely horrible and offensive. But like, I just was thinking, I was just so, baffled by, why does it matter so much to you that this person, what this person's gender is? Putting this, why, like, I guess I can understand if you really don't, like the idea, don't really understand the idea of being trans, but why would it matter so much to you that you would write an offensive article about it? Like, why would that matter so much to you? Because, at the end of the day, it's about, if you're defining, if that's how you're defining gender, if you're defining gender, oh, well, this person was, born a certain way and had these parts, then that means that they're this gender. If that's your definition of gender, then it comes down to whether someone has a penis or a vagina. Which is, like, if that's gonna be influence what pronouns someone's referred to by, what certain words that someone's referred to by, whether they're referred to as a man or a woman or whatever, if it's going to influence so much, then why would it come down to something as trivial as what they have in their pants? It's so funny because this big thing, just, it really, some people are going to argue, well, no, there's also hormonal differences, but here's the thing, you can start to try to make any, kind of definitions of gender, and what makes someone this gender, what makes someone this gender, but there's always going to be exceptions. There's not going to, you can't make a consistent, a consistent definition of gender that has to do with like physical traits, or because there's always going to be exceptions. Like, you know, if you try to define it with hormones or something, there's always going to be differences. You know, there's always going to be people that don't fit into that. If you're going to, I don't know, define it by certain ways a person's mind works. Well, there's some people who are, are assigned, one gender at birth and identify with that gender. But, like, if you actually analyze their brain, then maybe they could have a brain that you could define as a male brain or a female brain or whatever. So, you know, gender, people like to think it's something so black and white, but it's, you know, it's just not. And it's just, I just think it's interesting if you really kind of take a step back and you recognize that how you're defining gender, if you're doing it in a cis-sexist way that most people, you know, that you're trying to do it by, no, it's like, you know, that, you know, how we have traditionally defined gender, it's about genitals. It's about what parts someone has. And I think you should ask yourself, why should it matter so much whether someone has a penis or a vagina so that it should affect what pronouns are used, whatever is used? Why should it matter so much what someone has in their pants? Like, I mean, like, you know, because really, like, the only reason, you know, it should matter to you what person's genitals are is if you're going to fuck them. And, you know, do you really need to know right away? Like, you know, is it so important to you? Like, you know, like, you know, it's like, what gender is this? You know, does this person have a penis or a vagina? Let me see. They have a penis. I like to fuck those kind of people, so they're a candidate for fucking. You know, is it really that important to you that you realize you can know whether this person is a candidate for you to fuck or not? Is that what it is? Is it, you know, I think it, you know, I just mean to kind of challenge people that are so tied to this idea that, you know, if you have a certain body, that you're male. If you have a certain body, you're female. You know, because it doesn't even work like that. You know, like, it's not like everyone is, you know, if you're going with that definition, you know, that, you know, this type of body, you're male, this type of body, you're female, it doesn't even work. It's not always like that. There's some people, there's people who are intersexual, that are not physically one gender or another. I mean, you know, well, are not, you know, don't fit into those, you know, physically don't fit into these ideas of gender just based on, you know, physicality. So, you know, I just think, if you're so convinced, no, people with penises are boys, people with vaginas are girls, if you're so convinced of that, I just think, you know, take a moment just and really consider why that is. Why should it be that way? Why should it be that this big thing, gender, which very much affects how immediately, I mean, because here's the thing, this has been a really rambly blog that's going everywhere, but, you know, I mean, I notice that it very much, when, how people respond to you very much, changes based on what they perceive your gender as to be. I mean, like, just I know, I played a role. It's it's a drag role in the musical Chicago. It's Mary Sunshine, and the whole point is that you know, like later there's like a reveal, whatever. But you know, it's interesting because like the whole time, you know, the audience is kind of going like, oh, what's this person's gender, and it becomes like a big deal, and that just kind of shows you, it's like it's interesting that it's so important to us to know what a person's gender is. And, you know, really, I'm just, you know, posing the question, why is it that important to, well, why is it so, I mean, and really what it is, you know, what genitals a person has. Why is it so, why is it so important that we know what genitals someone has? Why?